Can the Detroit Lions run it back and put the NFC North on lock? Back to back question mark? We'll see in this Detroit Lions 2024 season outlook. What's up, everybody? Chase Johns here, back at it again with another video. If you enjoy this content, please like the video, subscribe to the page, comment on this video. Love to hear your thoughts and appreciate all the support that's been going on with the page over the last couple of videos. We're going to wrap up this series for this division, at least, the NFC North, with the Detroit Lions, who were the division champions last year. They went 12-5, won their first ever NFC North title since divisional realignment in 2002. There was a lot of great things that happened for Detroit this season. They were on a roll the entire year. The offense was potent. The defense came up in big clutch moments. They ultimately lost in the NFC Championship game to the San Francisco 49ers. But it was a fantastic year. Detroit was seen a lot in prime time and national TV games, and they were just a great watch for even just being a normal NFL fan and not even being a fan of the Detroit Lions. But they had such a magical 2023 season, and 2024 is going to look a little different for them, but they kept a lot of the same pieces. But some of the guys that left, offensive guard Jonah Jackson went to the Rams, defensive back CJ Gardner-Johnson went to the Eagles, and then receiver Josh Reynolds goes over to Denver. They added a couple of corners in this room. Carlton Davis from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a very physical corner on the outside that plays with a lot of edge. Amik Robertson comes from the Vegas Raiders, trying to get himself back on the right track. DJ Reader, the defensive tackle from Cincinnati, when he's healthy, he is one of the best run stoppers in football. So I'm excited to see what Reader can do up there in Motown. Kevin Zeitler, another former Bengal, but a former Raven, played on that really good Ravens offensive line, can fill in for Jonah Jackson. And then they signed Marcus Davenport to a cheaper deal, trying to get the most out of him. Looking at this Lions offense, I mean, it's awesome. They have awesome balance. They have one of the best, if not the best, two-headed backfield in all of football with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And their passing game is layered, and it's layered with a lot of really good stuff. And you can credit Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, to that. He had a lot of head coaching opportunities come up this offseason, but he stayed in Motown. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff that happens on this offense this season. David Montgomery, a guy that really can do a lot inside the tackles, had about 1,000 yards this past season. He's just, he's a really hard runner and everything. And then you've got that fire and ice dynamic and the flash of Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, 972 rushing yards this season, and, he did a lot of attacking on the edge and in the passing game. It was just fantastic to see. This Detroit Lions run team was just, they were so efficient and they were tough to stop. And then you go to the slot. We look at the passing game. Jared Goff obviously got the huge contract and everything else, and it was deserved. But you're talking about the weapons that he's throwing to. Amon-Ra St. Brown also got a contract of his own. He is a dangerous guy in the slot. You do not want to see him one-on-one, and it's just a nightmare for defensive coordinators to try to plan for a guy like him. He had 1,500 yards last season and 10 touchdowns on 119 catches. It's just unbelievable what he's able to do in there. And he's a technician from the slot. Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end, he had 10 touchdowns of his own and over 800 yards receiving. I mean, a guy that steps on the scene. He came from Iowa, so obviously there's that. But you're talking about a guy that steps on the scene and does that? How do you have an answer for that? Do you play safeties, linebackers? I don't know. It's such a matchup nightmare in that regard. But if they can get Jameson Williams, who was one of their first round picks in 2022, if they can get him more consistent and staying on the field and being a deep threat, they've got every single layer pieced together. They can go short, they can go quick game, they can go intermediate, they can take deep shots, they can do all of that. And if Jared Goff just plays turnover-free football and just lets it back and zip the football, this Lions offense, mark my words, will be the best in the National Football League. If they're able to hit on all cylinders, I mean, this team can average 400 yards a game on offense, and in their sleep, they are that good. The defense in Detroit, it was pretty good last year. They had a great run-stopping unit led by linebackers Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, all guys that were 80-plus tacklers last season. And then, obviously, they added DJ Reader on the front lines to stop the run alongside Aleem McNeil and guys in that sort. So the run-stopping unit, pretty good last year. They didn't have to improve a whole lot on that, but the strength got even stronger. Their secondary is going to be their big question. They released a couple of guys, and they got to go in there and fill up with Carlton Davis III on the outside, Amik Robertson. They got to get some more out of Ryan Branch and Kirby Joseph, but those guys had very good seasons. They're not taking anything away from them at all. Brian Branch had a fantastic season as a rookie. So they're just going to have to grow and mature a bit more on the back end. And I think bringing in those guys on the outside is going to be big, and just trying to be cohesive as a unit. So it might take a couple of weeks for them to do that. But another big question for me is, Aiden Hutchinson had a really good season last year, 11 and a half sacks. He's the main piece on that Detroit Lions defense, the main pass rusher and all, but who can step up with him? Who's going to be that guy that's able to compete and, help out this Lions team on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson? Who can be that guy that can go after and get 7 or 8 sacks if Aiden Hutchinson's trying to reach his goals of, up to 13, 14, 15 sacks and build off of last season? I'm just going to be excited to see that. But Detroit's secondary just got to get a little stronger, and I think everything will be very good for them this year under Aaron Glenn. Looking at Detroit's schedule, this is going to be tough. It's the first time they ever played a first-place scheduled since the realignment happened in 2002. They've got the Rams right off the bat. That's the game I got to circle because it's a playoff rematch. Matthew Stafford's coming back in town. Sunday Night Football, opening weekend. It's going to be big. And I'm excited to see how Detroit can answer the Rams, who are going to be coming in pissed off that their season ended in that same stadium, and Matthew Stafford coming back home. Detroit's got to take advantage of the first 4 weeks this season because they play 3 of those games at home, 2 of them at night, and then their bye week happens, and then they play the Dallas Cowboys, the Vikings. They play a lot of road games, divisional opponents, some really tough teams. More of the divisional opponents are later on in the season, but the first half of the season, it's a bunch of teams over 500 from last season. They only play 3 outdoor games this year. 14 of those are indoors. Their first outdoor game is against Green Bay in November. So they got to take advantage of those dome games for sure. They play Green Bay in November, which isn't that bad. Then they go to Chicago in December, and then they play the Niners down there week 17 Monday Night Football. So Detroit just got to take advantage of this. It's a tough schedule. And, what I'm looking at with the ceiling, if this team hits on all cylinders, they can win 14 games. They're legit. They are a really good football team, and they could be here for a very long time. If stuff spirals out of control, 8 and 9 is like the least I can see this team do because they have a lot of depth and a lot of really good players, but that's the least I can see them do. What I'm expecting from them, playing this tough schedule and everything else, I think Detroit's going to adapt to it pretty well. I think they're going to be around at 11-6 or 12-5 mark. I think it's going to be good enough for them to win the division again this season, go back to back. But, it's easier said than done. Some teams overperform, some teams underperform and everything else. But I think if Detroit is able to field that healthy roster and everything else with the guys that are calling plays and the guys that are making plays, Detroit's one of the best teams in the National Football League, and I think they're going to be here for quite a while. So I think Detroit goes back to back, and we'll see how that plays out going forward.